All right, good afternoon, everybody. Here we go. It is Friday, October the 5th of 2018. This is the TRC sales training call, which I'm always excited to do. And just so you know, we broadcast these live also over on the Realty Classroom public page. So if you want to go see a recording there, but also all you members on the inside, you can have it in whatever group you're in because I will share it there while I'm speaking. So today I'm going to get right after it. Heather Lang was kind enough to send me per my request, some of the recordings that Aida, who works with Heather in the context of prospector / follow-up extraordinaire persona. And so I want to just look right at those because you know I love Friday sales training calls when I have real materials to look at. Any of you that have those that you want to share those with me, it's better when I'm listening to real calls than I am talking theory because it's one thing to give structure to calls. It's another thing to hear what the consumer actually is saying and how they're actually throwing us off. So when I say throwing us off, throwing off our theory. So there's always that buoy that you can come back to that we want to work on here. But the real world is the real world. Let's just leave it at that, okay? All right, so remember, *6 your mic. If it is loud where you are, mute it, whatever you have to do. And then I don't have to play a voice jail guy. And so here we go. Heather, check, we good?
Hi, yeah.
Hi, okay.
I'm here, and Aida, are you there? Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Aida, thank you for being my volunteer without fear. Right, so, you know, this is the only way we get better. Yeah, and let me just...
Aida's awesome.
Yeah, and I just want to give a little context here, too, and say this, is that I think it really does become important to listen to this, Aida, because here's what I said to Heather, and just so you know the pressure that I put, pressure is not the right word, but I'm trying to get Heather and all the rest of the mastermind members to recognize that when they get somebody really good like you, that they need to actively manage that situation. So Heather and I, as her consultant, it is very important for us to be there for you managing this, because what we don't want to do is allow you to just sort of flounder out there with any feedback. So again, I think it's almost important for you to understand that from where we're coming from, so that it doesn't seem like we're trying to catch anybody doing anything wrong. We're actually trying to catch what you're doing right and deal with the reality of the moment. And so as a precursor to the conversation, I know that Heather's perception, and I'll say it only until I hear it validated by you, which wouldn't be a surprise, that it is tougher to get a hold of people on the phone these days. And that's no surprise to me as they begin to shrink and hide behind their technology. They just don't want to talk to you until they're ready. But when they're ready, they're more than willing to do so. So I think the whole concept of calling has to be understood that way, that look, if you're really just giving in the beginning, it takes this pressure off you to be sort of this maniacal pursuer of all things appointment, right? And forgetting that we can actually be there to serve somebody. Does that make sense as a context for you, Aida, as to where I'm trying to go with this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I know you...
I think on my end, I feel, to me, it's more so like, well, what do I tell my boss? I'm getting voicemail after voicemail after voicemail.
Right, good.
You know, what are we getting more?
Good. Well, you say that out loud, because you know what? If that's the truth, then that's the truth. I mean, I think nobody ever should feel pressure to make it up because there's a perception. And look I implore every team leader, whether they listen to me online, on a podcast, in a coaching program, we have to be realistic that sure, we would all love appointments. Wouldn't it be so nice if we just threw Aida into a lead pile and she just constantly pulled out these beautiful appointments? Sure, that would be so idealistic, only you'd have to pay a lot of money and go see that happen at Disney World, because that's about the pipe dream that it is, right? It's just, that's the case. It's a pipe dream. And I think it doesn't mean that somebody like you grinding away can't get these appointments, can't get her in front of them. But if the first reality is the names and the contact information that we give you are very difficult to get on the phone, well, then where are we? The script itself is useless because it wasn't being used on anybody, right? So I think that's how this all begins, is for whomever is responsible for marketing and getting you, or in my case now Jason, or Jace as he likes to be called, I have to get him good contact information so that there's even an opportunity. I have to get him the best technology to plow through these names to have the conversation first, right? So it's an us problem, meaning her consultant and Heather, to really try to figure this out. So don't think for one second that we don't want to hear, hey, I can't get anybody on the phone. But then that comes back to, and I'll start there with you before we listen to your recorded calls, from a mechanical standpoint, how many times do you sit down during the week to make phone calls, and for how long? And if it's a little bit, that's great. We just need to know the reality of your situation.
Yeah, it really depends, because I am part-time and my hours are, kind of not all over the place, but they're different every week somewhat. But I would say when I'm calling them maybe like 2 times sometimes, but I don't have an exact amount that I say, okay, well, today I sat down and I called for 3 hours because of all the other things I do for Heather.
Yeah.
It really depends on the day and what we have going on from the meeting prior. So I don't have exact time where I just say, okay, for these 3 hours I have to just make calls.
Okay, so I would begin to.
I can follow up on that a little bit, Danny.
Okay, go ahead.
When I'm looking, because I do have Aida, log her number of attempts each day and each week. So when I go back and I look at the log, that she is, and we're calling based on how we've set these parameters in our mastermind. What our attempts are, both calls, voicemails, and emails.
Right.
So she is logging that, and I'm seeing that I get, when I look at that, I see an average of between 8 and 15 attempts per shift.
Yeah. Okay. 8.
And that was before I was counting so I was only counting them once. So if I was calling them twice or 3 times, whatever the case is, I was only counting it once because there was one contact person.
Okay.
But we just recently talked about not doing that anymore.
Okay. All right. So look, ladies, I think separating out the job description. I just went through this with Boschrot and Kaylee, who are new to the group. And, the first thing is always to take an inventory of what jobs the executive administrator is doing. That's a very important thing. So, in the classic TRC model, where we follow Michael Gerber's model, we have this marketing module, we have this closing module, then we have conversion, then closing, then past client. So, Aida, if you're assisting Heather in multiple capacities, the one that we want to just be clear on today is the sales capacity, which is in the conversion module, meaning taking a contact who has a disposition of lead to either there's no opportunity, aka trash delete contact, or up to prospect, where Aida is able to offer a higher level of service, meaning let me put you in MLS, let me send you the stuff that sells around you so you can see how it affects you, right? So I think it becomes important to more clearly define the job. Heather, you hear that, right? Because see how she quickly melded it together? And we might have goals and metrics for phone calls, but if she's not clear when to start and stop in each module, then I think it becomes more of a time management issue that could be causing more of the problem. See, even if Aida is in a limited situation with you where she works part-time, that's fine. Jace has started with us in a part-time capacity of 10 hours a week. So we're just trying to be very hyper-specific about the job description in those 10 hours and what the expectations are. Give them all the tools. For example, we finally went out and got the Mojo Dialer. Jace figured it out in about a nanosecond. And so now he's already using it, and we'll bring his recorded calls here too. But my point is, by being so hyper-focused on those 10 hours, what we want, now we can fall forward. Okay, what was it like when we put all the expired information in first, because that's where we begin. What's that like? Are you blowing through that? Is there more capacity? Are you reaching people? What's your result? So we sort of just chunk it that way, fall forward, and then the metrics will reveal themselves to us, Heather, right? So again, there's not, people are not going to have the same capacity for time, right? They're not going to have the same capacity. Everybody's going to have a more limited approach to what they can do. So being specific with AIDA in those hours, okay? And if that's whatever drives sales, Heather, is the most important use of the people on our teams. Number one, you have to be connected to the sale. This is a sales-based business. Without gross commission income, there is no other stuff to do, right? Make sense?
Correct. Yeah, and I would say that AIDA's activities, and you and I can talk more about this on our one-on-one next week too.
Sure.
But for the sake of, this discussion, AIDA is aware. I mean, she's been helping me clean up database and get things organized, but that's, and now most of our efforts really are focused on the expired program. And so she goes between processing, scrubbing and getting them ready for calls and mailings, and then she's processing and then doing her tasks as they come up in iSoft.
Okay.
And that is really her main focus.
Okay, good. So let's stay there. And in the calls that you sent me, let's get right after them. The second call that you sent me isn't expired, and you left a voicemail. And so your notes were you had suggested she clarify full name of booklet when referring to it to help reference purpose for call. I also learned that she is often calling 2-3 times per shift, but was leaving a voicemail in the first try. I asked her to leave a voicemail in the last try of the day instead. Sometimes folks pick up on the second or third try. Correct. Those would be best practices, right? So AIDA, sitting down, when we originally built the follow-up system into Infusionsoft, what we said were best practices were to, whatever your full shift is going to be, if it's only an hour, you try these people at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the hour, presuming that there's just not this massive amount of them, okay? So because what it is your goal is not to leave a message. The most important thing that we set is a talk to, a conversation. The business of real estate agency is driven by conversations. The ultimate is face-to-face. If we could immediately jump to a face-to-face conversation with somebody, that's precisely what we would do. It's true for any sales. We're getting too far removed from that. We need to understand that's the ultimate goal. I want to get face-to-face. In this case, I want to help Heather get face-to-face. So what a message does, if it's done on the first call versus a couple tries during a shift, is it absolutely eliminates any opportunity to try other times where that person might be available. So it's just simply a best practices thing. And I think one of the problems, AIDA, is that people get very transactional. And if the boss, quote unquote, and I don't like that you use that name, I'd rather you said my partner, Heather, because in this endeavor, that's what it is. It's a true partnership. Yes, I get it. She's your leader. She's your guide. That's fine. But for our sake, I want your mindset to be my partner and to have that responsibility of a partner. Am I being a good steward of this partnership? Meaning, am I doing the best in the limited time I have to get a conversation that leads to a clear outcome? Heather, there is no opportunity for follow-up here, or there is. That's the best outcome. See, because everything else kicks the can down the road. So if we're in a hurry to leave a message, we're just kicking the can down the road because I still have to pursue that to a conclusion, right? So all I did was push that forward in my day timer and added to the work that I will have to do. AIDA, you with me?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and it just merits, let's talk about best practices. We think as a group that's there. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because Heather has already mentioned an emphasis on the booklet, which yesterday when talking through with my team and the mastermind, Jace, myself, and Laura, came up with something based on what people really want. And when you're early in the conversion module, whether you're calling a for sale by owner an expired or it looks like an old buyer lead, you have to be oriented towards what they want first. I know what we need and what we want. We need and want appointments. I get it. I know that. But until we are hyper-focused as the very first beat, that this is all about what the consumer wants, then we're lost, right? Because otherwise, even if we're giving something away per se, we're still missing that engagement that has to happen. So let's listen to your expired call and we'll go from there.
Wow, that's really a lot of love.
Hold on.
There we go.
It's me. Just leave a message if you would. Thank you. Bye.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi there, this is Aida with Heatherling Homes of Ontario. I'm actually following up with you because about a month ago I sent you out our 7-point strategic plan, and I wanted to make sure that you received it. I haven't been able to get in contact with you, but a lot of people have questions after receiving it and reviewing it, so I definitely wanted to make sure that we were there to answer any of your questions and see if we can be of any help in relisting your home. Feel free to give me a call back. I can be reached at 408-506-4811. You can either give me a call back or also feel free to text me. I know sometimes that works better for people. Again, that number is 408-506-4811. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay, the first thing that's pretty remarkable is amazing how much time it takes for the phone to ring and an answering machine to kick on. So, the reality of the moment is we sit down to do this body of work. That took 43 seconds just to get to the voicemail. It's a minute and 34 for the entire transaction. So it's, again, it's not a lot, but it's just interesting as I watch that. So, Heather, as you listen to it again live for training purposes, what are you thinking?
So, again, I'm thinking that, in introducing the purpose for the call and because it's been a month since that booklet was sent, I suggested that, referencing that this is, the 7-point strategic plan to sell your home successfully would be just important to reiterate, just so that it gives a little more reference to what was sent, even maybe talking about, that the booklet talks about how we can strategically help, sell a home that didn't sell, and it'd be great to have a conversation about that and find out if they're wanting to sell again. So, that was just something that we had talked about.
Okay, Aida, before I
That
make
was
some,
kind of the main thing.
good. Aida, before I make some comments, and I don't want to forget what she just said because I have a word there. I'm going to write it down because I was going there anyway, but I don't want to forget it. What do you think when you listen to yourself making that message happen?
Sometimes I feel like my messages are too long.
Okay.
So, hearing Heather's feedback is really helpful, and it's good because me personally, if I get a voicemail, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this is so long. But if I need to say more, I'll say more, and I can definitely do that. I guess my thinking was getting a quick point across because sometimes people will just close out a voicemail.
Right. Okay, I think that's an excellent self-critique. Really good. I'm going to go back to what Heather said first, and then I'm going to come to what you said. Number one is context. I think we forget to reroute ourselves in what's happening because, again, what we see in front of us is we see the task, Aida, right? The task is to pick up the phone and call this guy. Now, Heather, from a standpoint of systems and process, here's my concern. A month later, okay, we're following up on an expired to see if he got the materials, okay? That's a big gap where
Well,
that...
this isn't the first call. Well, but this is...
All right, hold on. All right, hold on. I didn't mean to put you into attack mode.
Okay.
Thanks for the punch in the nose.
Okay.
So what I was saying is, and the reason I bring it up, communication the minute context is revealed to us, until we get a result, it has a little bit science, a lot of bit science, and a little bit art form. In other words, it's the Goldilocks syndrome. What is the right amount of follow-up here? And when I said context, we know that this guy expired, okay? So he expires on a specific date. We get notified, not necessarily on that specific date. There might even be a lag. Then by the time Aida sits down and stuffs the envelope and sends the content, okay? The content is the stuff that really matters here, okay? Because it has to include, and this is a new distinction for me with my own team this week, and I really want to make it clear to everybody that the content must be hyper relevant to the consumer's context. I expired. I was on and failed. Sure, maybe I decided to take it off myself. Maybe my plans changed. I'm not going to say that there's not some variables there that don't preclude that there was a problem, okay? But the problem is, if we just trying to overanalyze everything, we don't arrive correctly with the content. So the reason for the seller course is simply because that's truly what they need to consider, and we know that as experts. We know that, look, somewhere along the line here, something was wrong with your strategic approach to selling your property. Something was wrong. Otherwise, it would have been completed, and I wouldn't have this context to send you this. So our letter and what it says around that context is as important as what she says when she picks up the phone and calls, and they must be consistent. This is all about you. Here are the materials. P.S. I'll be calling, or you can call me. So when we call Aida, we have to see that package sitting in his house saying, look, what you probably want, and we have to make the assumption, is to know who sold when you didn't and why not. Because the first thing that he's doing is blaming a circumstance, or more likely, his agent. We know that because we've all been on the receiving side of that abuse. It's all your fault, right? So the truth is, they want to know the insightful information, which we talked about in the mastermind yesterday, is that you're introducing yourself as somebody who has insightful information. So what is that? Well, certainly you could consider the seller course there, but I don't want to get high on what we're excited about as professionals. Hey, I'm a guide. It looks like something went wrong. Here's my guidance in my guidebook. It's great, and I can't wait to go over it with you. I get that that's our internal conversation, Heather, but ultimately what's really important is that we send comparables that sold when this property was on that are most like it, to reveal to them, look, there are other properties that were on that you were competing with and they sold. And the insinuation in our mind is that we want you to have this, to see this, so you can begin to make a realistic comparison. Here's the picture, here's the description. And nobody can deny logic. If somebody's house has been completely redone and they were down the street and they sold, even though, no matter what your opinion emotionally is about the people that own it and their situation, the product that offered these features sold at this number, period. Period. So sitting in this guy's living room, there should be this collage of pictures with descriptions that say, hey, look, here's a soft starter CMA. It shows what sold while you were on the market. Oh, by the way, also, I gave you our strategic plan that we use with our clients to ensure that their property sells. So it's a combination of the two. And there's never always a perfect way to do this, because until we get in the conversation, we don't really know. But let me just tell you, Heather and everybody else, what adjustments we made to the expired. Hey, it's Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is because we saw that your property expired on MLS. Or if you want a different alternative, I'm calling you because I saw that your property is no longer in the market. Because oftentimes, people get a little bit confused. Well, what do you mean it's expired? You know, there's a lot of agents that have listings expire and they're incommunicado with their client, and the client's actually surprised when you call. That's a real thing. So I would recommend maybe the second one is even better. I'm calling you because I saw that your property is no longer on the market. What market? The MLS. Okay? You came off. You expired. You withdrew. Something happened. So I just want to let you know, this is new for us as of yesterday. I just want to let you know that we mailed you a list of properties that sold in your price range where you were on the market, and included our listing plan that we use with our clients. And that's it. And again, we don't know. We're trying to come up with, when Jace, Laura, and I were working with it, just like Aida said, the shortest and simplest it can be, and to the point. Okay? So that's a little adjustment, Aida, that could probably help you. Because because I believe that what they want is the most important thing. Now, again, they're not saying, hey, I want everybody to send me some sold properties that sold when I didn't. But let's just presume that they always want property information when they're buying or selling, don't they? I mean, that's real estate agency 101. So let's flip the script a little bit, and where we've been going with our themes on the sales training and the coaching, and say, let's just first make sure we do the best job of getting them something they want, which is property information. If they didn't want property information, then you wouldn't even know the name Zillow. Let me prove that to you by just simply saying even technology companies came in and got that. They want pictures of properties. Now, I love when you can send something physically like a list. I love using that same list at open houses. I love the physical manifestation of it. So Aida, the next time you put one of these packages together, read it. Experience it. What is this letter really saying to this person when it arrives? Heather, how good do these properties look in their collage? Are you using Cloud CMA? Are you thinking about the sold pictures? Right? Is it enough to provoke interest? And, what a frustration. Look at this guy sold, that guy sold. What was wrong with me? Well, it's probably in one of these 7 points, so we included that too. So now when Aida calls, it's the same thing. Hey, Danny, sorry I missed you. It's Aida from Heather Lang's office. The reason I'm calling is because we know you came off the market about a month ago, so we had sent you out a list of properties that sold in your price range while you were on, and we had also included our listing plan that we use with our sellers. So I'd love the opportunity, number one, to make sure that information arrived, and if it didn't, I'm going to resend it. And number two, just have a quick conversation about you to answer any questions. So either way, if you could please call me back, or if it's more convenient, you could text me or email me and get out of Dodge. You follow me?
Yes.
Okay. Just like that. Just very quick, but you're restate. Go ahead. Come on. Go ahead. What do you want to say? Go ahead.
I was just agreeing. I think that sounds great. And, one question that both Aida and I have as well is that if she doesn't get somebody on a third time and leaves this voicemail, would it also be appropriate to send a quick text?
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
for sure. And that's where I left off that last piece of the script. If it's going to be, I know, thank you, my VIP glasses, Marcus. I know, Gail loves them too, right? So the point is, I think that we have to understand that we are leaving a message on a phone. I know this is going to sound like I'm patronizing the conversation, but we are leaving a message on a phone asking for a phone call. And they might not want that. So I'm going to go back to the first beat I talked about. The most important thing here is to recognize, what do they want? So they want property information. We've talked about that. We've sent it. Here are the solds, right? Here are the solds, and this is what it looks like, right? Those are the solds. So that's what you want. We know it. We threw in what you need, our strategic plan, and we'd love to answer some questions. I'm not saying say that, but I'm teaching the mindset behind this. Now, whatever way you prefer to communicate with us, whether it's text, email, or phone, no problem. Here's the best number to text us back on, or email us if you don't have a chance to call back. But in any of those cases, we would appreciate that you reached out in return so that we know how to best follow up. So you want to let them know that you are not going to stop following up to see if this stuff has arrived and if you can help, and then you give them a way to respond. And furthermore, it's probably time at the mastermind level, perhaps even as early as the helpline next week, Heather, we go back and we consider the cover letter to make these small tweaks. In any case, you can expect that we will be calling you to follow up on this. So please respond to us. And that's what the series of letters after the initial package does in and of itself too. Remember, we have the gift. We wait that week, we let it go, maybe they're out of state, whatever the case might be, and we're calling to try to say, hey, it's coming, or hey, it already got there, or hey, did you receive it? That's about a week's worth of work. But after that, think about what we're doing with the direct mail. Now we're coming and saying, hey, we sent you this, and most people respond. How come you didn't? Right? That's that whole I'm puzzled. You know, why wouldn't you respond to this? We thought this would be really super helpful stuff that you wanted and needed, and we thought you'd respond. Hey, the next letter that goes out maybe 3 days later says, hey, maybe you have some questions about who we are or what this is. And then lastly, hey, maybe you need to hear from some people that have actually gone through this with us. So remember what this sequence of letters is doing is essentially acting and behaving as our proxy, Heather, as Aida's proxy. So Aida is getting on the phone and all she's doing is mimicking this letter sequence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Did we lose Heather? Oh, there you
Well,
are.
and so I would say as well then that a good since it has been a month that going back, just reiterating what you just said, going back and looking at the letter that was just sent and piggybacking off of that can also help with the verbiage in the voicemail or the text. And also, I was thinking that following up with the text, you can always also offer, if it's been that long, offering, would you like to see what's selling in your neighborhood now?
That's right. That's right.
We can send another.
Well, you could, but you're early on that. You're early on that, right? That's your upgrade offer.
Yeah.
That's your upsell. You're too early. Now you're starting to try to do too much because you're not even engaged in relationship. Now you're bugging me. Right? But it is super appropriate when you cross that Rubicon and now you're in a conversation, you've sent it, there's an indication that they felt it was helpful, and you say, did you know that I could set you up to get this automatically? I gave you a snapshot in time, but what's even more powerful is if we set you up in the source in MLS to receive sold properties around you, because it sounds like you're not planning on relisting until the spring. So I think it would be very helpful if we got that. Then I could also launch the digital version of the home seller course, which could then subsequently be teaching you how to be better prepared. And then all we ask is that we get a chance to come in and interview for the job. That's when you're speaking with them. That's when you can upgrade the offer to be continuous. Because what you want at that point is you want to go from this one-off moment where you send and talk once to a continuity relationship, henceforth content marketing. So content marketing in our world is a series of sold properties going to them because it's super important to them and it's what they want. It's that insightful information that shows you what's affecting your value. And then the course is instructing you how to behave prior to relisting, what to do, right? That's important. So don't go too early on that because that's the actual act of prospecting. Save that offer upgrade for when there's engagement. I'm not saying it only has to happen on the phone. If somebody really loves to text,
which we would love to have, wouldn't we? We would love to. That's our biggest problem is just not having the opportunity.
Well, you're not doing it. I'll tell you why. You're not doing enough of it. And you're not tightening the strategy. There's time that's passing here, and the intensity for follow-up and conclusion is just not there. I mean, that's where I was going next to say that this is an assembly line like manufacturing plant. And the raw materials that come in are all this contact information, and you have to move through it swiftly and pursue those conversations. Because quite frankly, they happen across the country at groups and teams and companies where the volume is just larger. even if it's part-time. There's just a lot of leads. They come in, people really lean in. They use things like Mojo Dialer to make more dials in the course of it. So it might not even be 3 dials. It might be 6, 7. It just keeps circulating in the dialer, right? So volume is your number one problem. But our problem, you and I, and I'll take responsibility for it, is we're just not managing this process. There's absolutely no way that the follow-up call should be coming 30 days later. And there's absolutely, no excuse to not send the full sequence of letters to every one of these people that you're pursuing so that there's direct mail and phone calls happening. And then ultimately throwing them on the postcard until they relist and sell with somebody else, or you actually get an opportunity. So I can tell you right now, it's the lack of a complete managed
I want to
system.
be clear, though.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're clear. Is that the system? Well, and Aida can confirm this, but the system's being followed. So the voicemail that you are hearing is not her first call.
Yeah.
That's just one in a series, and she's following up. But Aida, go ahead and share.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off. I think that's the 5th, and I think that's after the 7th. I could try to open the sequence, but all the letters, the full sequence gets followed through, which includes the 7th letter. And I think there's one last call after the 7th letter. So in the total, I think there was 5 calls.
Okay. We want to bring them to a conclusion. Hold on. We want to bring them to a conclusion. After that first stage, did they relist with somebody else or not? That's the next thing to figure out. If they did not, then you will build a list of those people. And then the next, suggested thing would be perhaps you don't have to call as frequently, but to put them on, say, a monthly postcard that keeps showing them Lang featured properties on one side and on the other, Lang property evaluation. I'll go over that with you two on a one-on-one, but there's much more. Until they list and sell with somebody else, tell you to go away, or invite you over, it's not over. Got it? Okay,
yeah. We can talk more one-on-one on Monday.
Right,
and,
but the reality of getting anybody on a regular basis to make a decision on you or even call you back in 7 to 10 days is very low. This is a long-term pursuit, right? So it's important to understand what I'm trying to eliminate and share with you is me as the problem. Meaning what? That the minute I desire to pursue an expired, get myself in there at the table to go head-to-head, and it doesn't have to be just an expired, I have to pursue that to a conclusion. Meaning I spoke with them, they said, Danny, thanks for pursuing us. We appreciate it. Sorry, we would have gotten back to you earlier. It just turns out that we've just decided not to sell. We're going to keep the house, pass it down to our children. Wonderful. That's an example of a conclusion. But with expireds, they're either going to relist with the same person again, give it another run. They're going to relist and sell, then it's really done. They're going to relist and expire yet again. Or they're going to tell you to go away, or they're going to invite you over. So until you have a firm conclusion, they're worth following up on. Why aren't they? Right? And again, I know it's tough when we're talking to ghosts, but you could throw the longer term ones that are on that list into a more global, dialer situation and just keep going after them. And it's just this persistence to bring every one of those contacts to a conclusion. Okay? All right, let me listen to this next one here. It's a FISBO. Let's hear this from you.
Hello?
Hi there, is this Catherine?
No, it's Teddy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong number.
No, you don't. She's my sister.
Oh, okay. I'm looking to speak with her. Is she available?
What's it regarding? If it's regarding about the house, it's already under contract.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, because we recently had sent her over a booklet with our information, but I wasn't aware it was already under contract.
Oh, yeah, it was under contract. I actually tried to tell the person who called that we don't need the booklet.
Oh.
It's not that it didn't say was never actually on the market.
Okay.
It's a cash-only sale. It's a total rehab. And, yeah, we have had multiple offers, and actually it should close on Friday.
Got it. Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but I do really appreciate you letting me know. It's definitely news to me.
Sure.
If in
Yeah,
the future
I'm the one who posted it on Craigslist. I'm the one taking care of it for them.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, we didn't see it on Craigslist, but yeah, definitely understand that. But if you need anything in the future, and you want to keep my information, I'm with Heather Ling Homes, and if you receive the booklet, then I would definitely suggest keeping it just in case anything does come up, or if you know of anybody.
Yeah, do you do rehab homes or just retail?
No, well, we do for Heather's a realtor, so we're looking to see if you were looking to list the home.
Right.
Not to
so
buy
you're
it.
looking for retail.
Yeah.
People who want to retail sell.
Right.
Okay, I'll keep you in mind.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, you sound a little confused on there too, and you sounded a
Totally
little.
was, and
Yeah, go ahead.
I completely was, and that's why I told Heather that she really caught me off guard. I didn't really know how to answer if we were retail. I mean, obviously I knew we're not commercial, but I guess I had never heard anybody put it in that form.
Sure.
So I told Heather, I said, this call really caught me off guard, and maybe it was a language that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of, very all over the place, I felt like. But this call really caught me off guard. I probably could have handled it way better, but I was.
Well, regardless of the context, and what she was essentially talking about was that it was a wholesale situation. We have a whole bunch of mastermind members who own home investors, franchises who flip and wholesale houses. And you're right, it is another language. So if you haven't heard it before, it's a little bit confusing. But what I would say is I would just make sure in a situation where you're calling a for sale by owner, you're calling an expired. We saw a couple things expire the other day, and then the next thing we know, they're active with contingencies or whatever was going on. So I think the whole situation could be confusing when we enter into this moment in time. But what I would say to you is don't panic like that. There's no need. You're well beyond that. Just have a conversation. Say, oh, really? Awesome. Right? How much did you sell it for? Just get into a conversation, because what you're still trying to find out, rather than just bail out. I like that you didn't just bail out. It was just that you just got a little lost in what to do. Here's the terminology I would use. Vet the situation, meaning dig in a little bit deeper and qualify that as a true, bona fide, solid sale. Okay? And don't assume that you have the wrong number, right? It was just sort of like you panicked and all these buttons started going off. So I'll say that even before she said it was under agreement and wholesale versus retail, it was almost the minute she said it, she wasn't the gal, something triggered you. If you go back and listen to it again, which I will do, you can hear this trigger, and you just hit the panic button almost and say, oh, I have the wrong number. How do you know? Right? Say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was so-and-so's number. Does she also live here? Because you're calling into a situation where there could be spouses, partners, friends, family, whomever answering the phone, right? We don't know the situation. So just say, oh, I'm sorry, does she live here? Is this who she is? So just slow yourself down a little bit, because you have a nice steady pace anyway. But listen to the trigger. Listen to you in the beginning. So other than the knowledge, it's more so right from the start. So listen.
Have a nice day.
Let's go back here again. Hang on.
Hello?
Hi there. Is this Catherine?
No, it's Teddy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the wrong number.
Bang. See what I'm saying? See how fast it is? It's like lightning speed that you make an assumption that throws you off, right? And I get it. It's the reality of the moment. Heart's pumping. You're pumped up. Hey!
You always call.
Hey, Heather, finally somebody answers the phone. Hang on. Hey, Heather, finally somebody answers the phone. Here it is. And it's not exactly what I expected. That's why I love real calls, because the emotions that we bring to it are affecting the outcome as well. And what happens is once this triggers, you stop hearing her, okay? You stop hearing what she says, and you lose the confidence to ask her, I'm sorry, what did you say? That you wholesaled it? You know what I mean? Just go there. But instead, you start trying to, it's almost like you're drowning in quicksand and you're throwing things at her. And she's actually quite nice and quite patient and willing to give you some time. So listen to this. Watch how you're sort of not hearing her anymore because of that first beat. Ready? Here we go.
No, you don't. She's my sister.
Oh, okay. I'm looking to speak with her. Is she available?
What's it regarding? If it's regarding about the house, it's already under contract.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, because we recently had sent her over a booklet with our information.
Okay, so once she said it was under contract, now you're backtracking to what we did for her. What's going through your head in that moment right there as you listen to it?
I think I thought maybe either she wasn't being honest with me, and then also because I don't know, I guess I somewhat thought it was odd that it was her sister. So I felt maybe she wasn't being honest, and I should at least let her know why I was calling, because it was a FISBO. And I didn't want to, I guess, say, well, I don't really have anything to tell you. Like, why am I calling you? So I wanted to let her know why I was actually calling.
Wow, interesting. That's a pretty negative paradigm. Why assume so quickly she's lying? That's a very strong negative feeling you had, because I don't hear that tonality. I mean, what I do hear her doing is trying to figure out, without asking questions, who you are. And do you know why, right? Because every single expired, FISBO, any of these probate, they've gotten other calls other than us. You understand that, right?
Yeah.
So the minute they put their number in a public forum to say, I'm for sale. Yeah, Vanessa, hang on 1 second. Once that number's out there in the public forum, we can all presume that these people have been assaulted even with a barrage of phone calls, with a lot of people saying nothing that is helpful. Which is why I'm always excited to say, look, I know you're worried that they're getting a lot of phone calls, but here's a classic example of going in there and say, oh, congratulations. Why didn't you say, like you went negative in your head? Why not say, congratulations, awesome, right? Is it a cash deal? Is it closing soon? Is it closing soon? And just in case it falls apart, I want to let you know we sent you over Heather's strategic plan. So if it doesn't go right, we'd love to help. You just missed all that conversation that could have happened, because then you could have said, are you and your sister moving out of there? Do you need help on the buy side? Like there were a whole bunch of other things that could have happened there that didn't, because it was very negative from the start. You felt like she was lying to you from the start. So everything gets weird, but it has nothing to do with her talking about retail. I'm not even there yet. And we've already hit a couple of beats that are more about us than it is about her, meaning there are things we could improve. 1, 2. Vanessa, go ahead. You had a thought there.
Well, I had a question. I'm in and out of the conversation. I have people coming in and out of the office, but was that her first call to that person or to that phone number that they answered and never talked? Okay, so you would have never known if it was the correct number or the lady, because it did sound at first like I probably would have said, well, is so and so there? If they said no, that's not her, or this isn't her. But she knew exactly. I mean, she must have been the one that requested and just put her sister's name or something. But I was just wondering if it was the first time you talked to them, or I would have said like, well, hey, she requested information, or I sent something over.
Yeah,
Which,
I mean, you're right. You're
she
right.
already knew what kind of calls she's been getting.
Yeah, well, again, remember what I said, and Leslie's posted a question too. How do I stop feeling apologetic? There's just a whole paradigm. That's a simple question to give a simple answer to. We're like, what are we doing here, ladies? All three of you, what are we doing here? What is the outcome? Vanessa, since you're in the hot seat, what are we doing here? Why are we picking up the phone and calling them? You tell me what you're thinking. Why are you picking up the phone and making these phone calls, Vanessa? Tell me. And let's use the context, FSBOs and expireds, because that's what we happen to have in front of us. What's the context and why are you calling?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question?
Why are you calling them? Just answer that question. Just what comes from your heart. Why are you calling them? Be honest with me.
For sale by owners.
Okay, anybody. For
Right.
sale by owners, expireds,
Oh,
anybody.
to help them.
Okay,
To
good.
help them, to
Good
offer-
answer.
to
Hold on,
offer
stop.
my
Stop, I got you. Hold on,
professional-
hold on. I got you. And it was a great answer, and I don't want to lose it. It's a really, really excellent answer. To help them. Do you hear what she said, Aida?
Yes.
It's the nut. You've got to have the right orientation before you go there. And the reason why you have all of this, see what she was saying is that she would continue to ask questions. She would continue to go in there. Why? Because she's seriously trying to help the woman's name that's on her list. And when somebody says this is not her, well, is she there? Does she live here? Is she trying to sell this house? Because that's the information that I have. Okay, yes, Leslie, you're asking me to get something for myself? Dead, right? To be helpful or to get something for myself? I know what you want because we want the same thing. We want the opportunity. The only thing we want to get is the opportunity to help you face to face. I'm just telling everybody, you have the wrong orientation. You're charting your course towards what you want, an appointment, and this is what it sounds like. And when the pressure starts to build on Aida, and she's all about, oh my gosh, I finally have somebody. Oh my gosh, I've got to get my boss. I mean, listen to all the language of this training. By the way, Aida, brilliant, awesome transparency here today. And the only way to help you is to break it down in micro bites like this. But what the irony is, it is your very orientation that might have been caused by us, right? Not you. Because we haven't conditioned you enough to say what Vanessa just said, right? To help them. Until you can own that thought process, you'll have this struggle with language. You'll stop hearing what they say. Your emotional, your emotion will build up. I mean, what do you mean, how can you help? Leslie, are you on the phone call too or just in the Facebook group? What do you mean, how can you help? Ladies,
Yeah. What I'm saying is that whatever is really our intent is communicated. It's so clear. You're so right about that.
you can hear it.
So keeping the right posture about being helpful, which is a genuine place to come, which
Right.
is how I want to come across.
Sure.
And you're right. Otherwise, if I'm not being genuine, I just get tripped up. It's just a bunch of words. What do I say now? What do I say
That's
now?
right. That's right. See what happens? Because when you orient yourself to how can I help you, then you switch into a mode of resourcefulness. If you want to just simply jump over all of that and get what you want, now the pressure to be perfectly scripted and answer in a kind of a hokey way, all this stuff, or to brutalize somebody forward, it's just a lot of work and it's a lot of muscle. I'm not saying it doesn't work. There's a lot of coaches and trainers out there that teach you to be uber aggressive, to keep asking questions, to keep pounding away. I've never met anybody that used that technique that didn't absolutely get burnt out in their career. I'm not looking to burn you out. I'm not looking to get burnt out. I'm looking to say the most satisfying business to run is one that has a fantastic reputation for being good stewards of help and information. That's what it is. Whether it's a retail business, a service business. I mean, think about Nordstrom's. They have an incredible reputation for service, and they're in the retail business. So how is it that you really want to sell some shoes today, or a men's suit, or a woman's dress, but yet you come across as the service kings and queens? of retail. It's because your orientation says, here comes this guy. He's coming in here. He's sort of skirting around the edges of the shoe department. Why don't I just say hi? If you need me, I'll be here, right? And then take a step backwards. Now he magnetically comes in a little bit deeper. He picks one up and you say, that's a beautiful shoe. It's actually made of, cowhide that's been treated, and aged like a fine wine. Now you get out again because he gave some information that has a little insight because you saw the guy rubbing his finger up and down the leather trying to figure out what it was. You see what I'm saying, folks? It's no different in service. You step in a little bit. You let them know they're there and you back out. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Pat. I think that was you. Or was that Marcus? Tony.
No, Tony.
Tony, you disguised your voice.
Yeah. Hey, so FISBO's been a struggle for us too. Just because we've never done them before.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people want to sell it on their own.
Yep.
But 9 out of 10 of them end up listing with a realtor sooner or later, and the vast majority, I guess, do so in the first 30 days. So how does that conversation progress? So it sounds like you guys sent them the 7-step seller course. You're following up to see if they received it. What's the rest of that conversation supposed to sound like? And then how are you following up from there?
Yeah, it's a great question because we made a little distinction. I don't know when you came in the call today and if you heard the adjustment that we made on our own team the other day, because we have a new guy who's super intelligent, very intelligent, and as we start to talk about it, we just think out loud and we say what feels better than the rest. So now I go back to the paradigm of helping, and I go into this idea of what do they want. See, if I'm going to help you, I'm going to get used to as an expert. If you all want to learn anything, and that's why, I use that analogy, is that, observe other people who are good at this in other industries. They watch for what somebody wants, and then they just get so good at it that it's almost second nature, Tony. So if I'm a for sale by owner, I have a disposition against the commission or against the Realtor Nation for some reason. Whatever it is, I think I'm smarter. I think I've had a bad experience. I need to save the commission because I'm tight. There's a lot of reasons why that person is oriented towards that. So through experience, I just said that to you, and you already know that, right? You know those are probably the most important reasons or most obvious reasons why somebody doesn't want to use a realtor in the beginning, until ultimately they find out, yikes, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. There's a lot more to this than I ever thought there was. I'm going to try it for 30 days, but then I'm going to realize the error in my way, and I'm going to hire somebody, right? So I think once we have that orientation, we go back to, okay, a guy or gal sitting with that mindset context, what could we give them on the phone call? What could we mail them to support that? And I always am a believer that if you're going to call a for sale by owner, you're calling them because they're in that area of influence where you want more listings, period. So that there's no harm, no foul in automatically, yes, thank you, Leslie, sending them the same thing you sent the expireds, the list of properties that have sold around them. Because when you listen to the recordings of agents talking to for sale by owners, you'll hear the sort of know-it-all-ish sound of, hey, I looked at the comps. Oh, really? Were you in MLS? No, I go online and Zillow and I've been tracking it. Good start, okay? But what I sent you was direct from the source, where I actually sent you the synopsis of what sold around you right before you went on in the last 30, 90 days, okay? It'll show you the pictures and the features, and that will be helpful for you to really refine pricing it right, because that's everything in this market. By the way, I also threw in my seller guidebook, and that will give you the strategic approach that I use with my own sellers. I thought that both of those would be super helpful for a for sale by owner. Okay. Now, Tony, you didn't have the benefit of being on the sales call a couple of weeks ago when we listened to your call, but I was cringing for you a lot because I didn't hear any of that. And so I think that The struggle comes from not having the orientation that we are helpers first, not having the orientation that we should be sending them content that helps them, so that we're calling about that stuff because it gives us context, right? So I think those beats, Tony, become extremely important, which leads you back to the scripting, where the scripting doesn't live on its own. It lives as, it has the foundation of helpfulness. It has the support of content delivery, so that when I call you up for the first call, I'm saying it exactly that way. I'm saying, hey, Tony, it's Danny Griffin calling from the Griffin Realty Group. I'm calling you because I saw that you're selling your house by yourself. Congratulations. I just want to let you know that I mailed you a short list of properties that have sold in that price range in that general market. And I also wanted to share our listing plan that we use with our clients. That's on the way. How's it going so far? Right? I got you off a list. Is it online where I can see it? You know what I mean? Follow where I'm going?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but where's your conclusion? What are you trying to get out of this call?
Okay, how's it going? Is it online where we can see it? Would it be possible to come by and take a look, see if we can match it up with any of our buyers? End of story. That easy. That's where I'm going.
Cool. So he's been easily getting me in the door to do the preview appointment. I've been making that just to just show me around real quick.
Yeah, but hold on, Tony, don't rush.
Because I'm not there for selling.
Tony, don't rush to. Yeah, see, that's your problem. That's not your problem. That's the problem. What did he say to get you in the door? It's not what I just said.
What's the purpose of the appointment, Danny?
The purpose of the appointment is to build a relationship. That's the purpose. And if I go face to face with you,
okay,
I've got a foot in the door. I don't know yet until I get there. I don't know, what is the real orientation. So to me, I mean, I'm going to give you the steps. What would I love? I'd love to get a good listing priced right where the seller is motivated at a 10. That's what I'd like. But how am I going to get there, Tony?
Sure.
Get me in the house to have a conversation with the guy. That's what I want, because it's in my wheelhouse at the price that I want. So I'm not going to lay off that tone. I'm going to tell you, I, Danny Griffin, am more than willing to go out and coach a FSBO how to sell their house by themselves. I am. It's a genuine comment. I will do that for somebody. Why? Because to me, it's also marketing. It's a good steward for my neighborhood, right? I am a guy that's willing to share that. Because why? I know that magnetically it will come back to me. If it happens to be in that case with that FSBO, fabulous. But if you skip over that and everything's about why are you there to get the appointment, okay? And then we get all weird about it. You can hear it in these phone calls. You can see it in the lack of the consistent delivery of the comps of the home seller course. I see it broken everywhere because the genuineness of arriving and helping them is void. It's not there. It's all a trick to get the appointment, to get the listing. I'm not saying it's conscious. Hang on. I'm not saying it's conscious, Tony. But at a subconscious level, as you could see with Aida's call today, she's struggling with this script because she disconnected from what Vanessa, who's been doing it forever, is truly connected to, and that's helping. Yeah, go ahead. Was that Leslie? Go ahead. You want to weigh in?
Yeah. I just had a quick question, which is, so in this recent listing, that I just got with Paul, the seller was so defensive and was so, people seem to be so fearful that we're going to try to play them or try to push them. And can you just talk for a minute about how, then what happened was I just stayed patient and listened and acknowledged, and then slowly he just kept communicating with me, texting, calling, he'd call back and call. And he slowly became, settled down and became real and then said what was really going on and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about what you do to just
hang on, Tony.
All through that process until they learn to trust you a little bit?
Yes, for sure I can. Tony, I think your mic's a little windy. Did you want to weigh in before I answer her question, or you want to just hang on for 1 second?
Yeah, I think both of them, what she's asking is kind of what I'm asking, is obviously most of these appointments are like preview appointments. And certainly they're not the traditional appointments that I'm used to going on because I've never done FISBOs.
Yep.
So it's more becoming a helpful partner until they are just fed up and they want to try.
Absolutely right. 100% right. What you just said, I really liked it. I liked it.
How do you do that?
Well, you just, the way I just...
More than just the initial call.
Well, because you've given him what he wants. You've given him pictures of properties that sold that make a comparison to his. Say, I don't know what you use for comps. Let me get you stuff right out of MLS. In fact, I've already sent you the first swath of them. By the way, as a good partner to helping you get there and as a free service, I'd be happy to set you up on an automatic update that every time something sells, goes pending, or comes on as your competition, it'll be in your inbox from the source from MLS. That's how.
So perfect. We're doing that too.
Yep.
Now, high five, Danny. Thanks for your 5-minute tour. If you got buyers, bring them to me. What do you do next week?
Okay. Well, I'll call him. How's it going? Say, I'm checking in to see how it's going. And I haven't been able to match anybody up. How about you? How you doing? How's it going? It's just a check-in. I saw that we sent you over this comp. Did you see this one here down the street that just came on? You've got him beat because your garage is 2-car, he's 1, and you've upgraded your kitchen. I just continue now to go micro. So I'm macro in the beginning with all this stuff around him, but now I've built a little relationship because I visited, and now I go micro, or your guy goes micro when he follows up. Hey, just checking in. How's it going? Any action? I mean, you're just having a conversation. It doesn't have to be rocket science, but then it's about more insight. Give him more insight. Say, did you see this one? Do you know what that means for you? It means this, right? So we just go micro. It's the same, by the way, that is precisely the same way that we follow up over the long term with buyers and sellers, by giving them more micro information that's affecting their value, or micro information that's giving the buyer the trend. And hey, did you see this one that sold? Would you have bought that? Pretty good price, wasn't it? So you're getting more personalized, Tony, every time you follow up. And if you feel like they're going to relist inside the first 30 days, then a weekly phone call follow-up sequence makes sense.
Sure.
Right? Because you now have them hooked on the updates. Let's just say they didn't want the email updates. Send them a weekly printout. And you know that intense 30 days, according to you, is that, so you're going to go the first list with your course, and then each week you're going to drop a list to this guy of the updates. And you're going to follow up with a phone call about information, adding your insight. What you're demonstrating is leadership, strategic professionalism, and just darn old good gift-giving principles. And you know what happens if you give the gift enough times, there's an ingratiated feeling. Even if they don't like other realtors, they begin to like you. They begin to, like Leslie said, they begin to reveal their thinking out loud. Because to go back to you, Leslie, to recognize in Tony's scenario, yours and anybody, what is the number one fear most people have when they're about to enter into a large financial transaction? Whether it's the stock market, selling your house, buying an automobile, it is the fear of being taken advantage of. It's the number one fear. And what triggers that fear is an overly aggressive first meeting. That's what triggers it. I'm not saying that overly aggressive salespeople can't get beyond it, because most of those people who come on aggressively know how to gear shift back when they hear somebody backpedaling. But what I would not recommend is that technique. I would recommend being aggressively helpful. Hey, how can I help you? Hey, I sent you this. Hey, it's awesome. Good for you. This is no easy gig selling your house by yourself. So I sent you some stuff that I think could help. By the way, I'd be happy to set you up to get these automatically so you keep up to date. I wouldn't mind taking a peek at the property either. I don't know if I can match up some buyers, but I can come over while I'm over there taking a look to see if I can match some people up. I'll give you some tips. I'll help you. So you see, Tony, how you arrive in that house and what your caller says is everything, because you're painting yourself into a corner. You're saying, well, we have a lot of buyers, and let me come over and take a look at it. Well, you come over, you take a look at it, and the guy pats you on the back and says, thanks, bring your buyer. Well, why are you saying that? I'd like to listen. No. You told me on the phone that you were coming because you wanted to see if you could match it with a buyer. So don't paint yourself into that corner. Keep it more open. Hey, you know what? I'm always trying to see what's out there. I'd love to see it physically. Is there time I could stop by? You having any open houses? So don't overly commit that you're going to try to match up a buyer. It's what most liars do when they pick up the phone and they call expireds and FSBOs. I got a buyer for that. I got a buyer. It's a lie. If you have a buyer say, I have Johnny who would like to see your for sale by owner, could I book a time with you? Yes, then it's the truth. Or say subsequently, I'd love to see the product. I don't really know who I could match up with it at the moment, but I work with a lot of buyers on a regular basis. But if I see the product, then it's on my radar. Then I can see if I can match somebody up. And while I'm there, I'll give you a couple of tips. So, Tony, the way he gets you in is everything. And if for 1 second now, he kind of makes up a story to get you in, you're stuck. And there's not a lot of ways out after that. Because now they could be triggered to say, you made a promise, Tony, that you were coming to see it for buyers. Where's your buyer? I'm frustrated. Had you just told me the truth, that you were just coming over to preview it and see it, and maybe you could, maybe you couldn't, maybe you give me some tips, that sounds fine. Come on over. Now you come over and the conversation is lighter. The guy's not like, oh, Tony's coming over. He works with a lot of buyers. I'm going to show him, honey. You know, let me show him. Tony, check this out. Check this out. Check. Now go get that buyer you told me about. I'm exaggerating the point because I don't like where you're painting yourself into. I think it's a tough place to get out of.
Yeah, me either. I love that.
Cool. Because, Tony, I know your heart. I know who you are. You've got to teach this guy who's working for you, who I listened to a live call. It just didn't sound like Tony to me. And the guy's a good guy, but it was kind of got a little weird in there when I was listening to it. It was great conversational to keep the guy talking, if that's the technique, but where was the offer of giving information? Then it was like this, you know, do you know Tony? Tony's been around for a long time, and Tony's done this, and Tony.
Yeah.
Right?
In his defense, that's a lack of clarity on my end.
Oh, sure.
Not directing that.
Oh, no, sure.
First FSBO.
Well, here's where it
I
really...
was a little vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's crappy FSBO first call up there.
Dude,
but,
here's where...
I'll do it again.
Yeah. Here's where it really falls.
I'll give you guys all a heads up if he's on the line. Could speed him up.
Yeah. It's on me, Tony. I'm the guide here for this group. It's on me. Okay? So he goes, you go to me. The buck stops here. I'm going to say it over and over and over. Please cheat towards this advice. Then when this advice doesn't work, it's squarely on my shoulders. Okay? And then I hear the call. What was it like to say, I sent you a bunch of properties around you because I thought that would be insightful and helpful. I also included the plan I use with my clients because I thought that would also be helpful. Say it to people. Let me hear how they react. Let me make tweaks based on real human reaction, and together we'll learn. But for now, the buck stops here. This is my problem until I get recordings that make these adjustments and they're proven either right or wrong. And this comes from a lot of hard work from you, from Aida, Vanessa, Leslie, everybody who weighs in that are real humans struggling out there to find this. Cheat towards help and then give them what they want. They want property information. It's what they want. Think Zillow. Zillow comes from nowhere, gives them a ton of what they want digitally, buys a ton of eyeball traffic, and guess what? Proliferates because they keep listening to the consumer. Give the buyer and seller consumer what they want, which is pictures of property. Now give them what Zillow can't. Insight, yours, around that property information. And that will allow them to see, hey, maybe he is not trying to take advantage of me because they've given me some stuff that educated me better than anybody did so far. So now I'm willing to consider this 7-point plan. Hey, sounds like you got your stuff together, kid. I will take a look at your 7-point plan now. But you got to earn your way in there. Might happen acceleratedly quick. In a phone call? I don't know. It depends on how trusting somebody can be, how smart and intellectually somebody quickly processes what we're saying, accepts it, and then keeps going with you in that moment. We don't know. We don't know until we get there. All right, listen, I'm way over time today because it's a really important topic. Go out and practice this stuff. Tony, I would love you to come right back next week with the recordings so that we could see, since we started with you, which you've stumbled forward with him, wonderful. Now we made some refinements based on orientation. We'll go from there. Aida, you rock. That was really good. You go out there, make more calls, and I think the rest will follow. All right, everybody? Good work here today. Appreciate everybody. Good work. Go out and practice this stuff. You bet. Go get him.
Thanks, Danny.
You bet. Go ahead, Clever. Go get him, bud. Thanks, Tony. Thank you, everybody online. I'll answer any questions that were left up there.